a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome to Tea Time, and you know what time that means. It is TEA. We are teaching educational awareness, and I have an incredible guest in the house today, Shannon Hazel, who is a Canadian girl. That's right, we are two Canadian ladies, so we're going to spill some strong maple tea today together. So before we get started, we're going to do a disclaimer. We're going to get a bio out there, and we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel. And why are we going to get you over there? Because Miss Liz has over 300 interviews from all walks of life, all different countries, all different topics. So I do guarantee that there is one tea time that will resonate with all of you guys out there. When you support and share Miss Liz and support my guests, you make a difference as well. And together we can all make a difference together, one cup of tea at a time. In Miss Liz's house, we do not serve a beverage, we serve storytelling and words. So let's get started and let's get the disclaimer going, the bio, and let's get Shannon in here and let's spill a tea of teach, empower, and affirm. That's the tea we'll be serving today with Shannon Hazel. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz, myself, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. Now, again, Tea Time's regular dates are Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you see Tea Time on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it is a special surprise or rescheduled Tea Time. So today I have an incredible lady in the house. Shannon Hazel is recently a retired public school teacher and the author of the upcoming book, which is out now, New Teachers Confidential, What They Didn't Tell You About Being a Teacher. Over her 25-year career, she was a kindergarten to grade 8 teacher, special education specialist, and instructional coach for teachers. During that time, she was actively involved in the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario and mentored many new teachers. In 2023, Shannon was recognized for her leadership and advocacy work for students by the Council of Exceptional Children. She is the founder of teacherEDU.ca, an online community for teachers to learn, connect, collaborate, and grow their capacity as educators. Shannon is the mother of 2 young adults and a dog parent and a longtime fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. Let me get Shannon in here and let me get her to say that word because I'm not sure if I said it right.
Capacity.
That's like that wasn't even a big word. That wasn't like supercalifragilistic.
Sometimes your brain just can't process it on the fly like that. I know, I get it. Happens to me.
Right? And I was just like, what am I trying to say here? Well, welcome, Shannon.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to our conversation today.
So, Shannon, I'm going to take you back. Before you even became a teacher, who was Shannon as a little girl and who's Shannon now?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. When I was younger, well, I feel like I want to go to the things that I did, right? Like I was a competitive gymnast and I was a part of a ballet troupe that did some competitions and toured and that sort of thing. So I was very active, and every hour of my day was filled. Not much downtime, but I did spend some time with friends, swimming at the pool in the summer in the local neighborhood. But very driven, goal oriented, had a lot going on, and was always busy. And Shannon today is pretty much the same, although she doesn't do cartwheels anymore. um, but I'm still driven. I like a full and busy life. I make time for downtime and, social activities, but I'm driven with a purpose. I like to help people. And at the moment, I'm really trying to support new teachers to the profession to be successful.
So, Shannon, as a little girl, did you like to play school?
I love to play school. Yes, I would play with my siblings. I would play with my stuffed animals. I was always the teacher, though, never the student, which is kind of funny now that, I see how my life planned out. I was obsessed with stickers and marking things. I love to be the teacher who got to mark and put like 9 out of 10 on the spelling test or something. And actually, in grade 8, my my grade 8 teacher would let me take the spelling test home from our class on the weekend and mark them,
Oh,
which I thought was great at the time, and now as a teacher on the other side, I'm like, "Hmm." It's kind of funny that he did that.
so you've been you're a retired teacher now, and you were a teacher for 25 years. So did you enjoy those stickers, the scratch and smell stickers?
As a teacher or as a child?
As a child and as a teacher?
Oh, both. Well, so I lived in a time, and I don't know if this was common other places, but me and my friends growing up all had sticker books. And it was our life's mission to find new sheets of stickers that we didn't have. And we would have little photo albums, and we would put them in the photo albums all perfectly arranged, and then, turn the pages and show each other what we had. So I feel like stickers for us was like, the Pokemon or NHL cards of today where kids collect and trade them. We did that with stickers. So, yes, I've always had a sticker obsession. As a teacher, I loved my stickers as well. And just to fill you in on a little top secret information, big kids like stickers too. Okay. Don't think they're only for the little kids. You give a teenager a sticker, they will wear that sticker proudly for the day. They will be the envy of all their friends. So, I don't know what it is about stickers, but I think it's a universal thing that people love.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is about stickers, but I love stickers too. I like putting them on my little notebooks and journals and give myself a star once in a while. I really like the scratch and sniff stickers, where it cheers you up, right?
Yes. Yep. I can get with that. Yep.
So Shannon, and in 25 years of being a teacher, what was the thing that stood out the most for you?
Hmm. I don't know. That's a pretty wide open question. Um, I'd say the little girl Shannon who wanted to be the teacher didn't realize the all-encompassing, overwhelming nature of the role. So, when you're growing up and you're saying, I'm going to be a teacher, and you're in university and you're heading into teachers college, you're thinking about, having your own class of students and how fun that's going to be, and decorating it up to look just perfect for them, and buying new school supplies for them. And, you just have on these rose colored glasses about all the joy teaching is going to be, and having your own class of students. And it's not until you actually begin in the role that you think, "Oh, well, there's a lot more to this that I didn't know." And, it's a little overwhelming. It's a steep learning curve. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of taking work home with you. So, I think the biggest thing for me was really trying to maintain that joy of being a teacher, and having fun with the students, um, even though you're living in the reality of everything that comes with being a teacher.
Well, the reason that I asked that question is because I want to get into the book, right? Because you wrote this incredible book that came out in March. So let's talk about that book. It's called New Teachers Confidential: What They Didn't Tell You About Being a Teacher.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
so since I was younger, I always knew I wanted to write a book. I didn't know what kind of book. I actually thought it would probably be a picture book. So when I retired in June of 2023, I knew mission one was I want to write a book. Like it's time. It's, my time now to do some of the goals that I've had. I've spent 25 years working full time, raising 2 kids, that sort of thing. So I wanted to start checking off some of those bucket list items. And writing a book was number one. And so that July after I retired, I started brainstorming about, what kind of book would I write? And the one that I just kept coming back to was because teachers working today, and this was true for me when I was working, we always think to ourselves all the aspects of the job that you didn't know coming out of teachers college, right? And so in my head, I kept thinking I need to write a book about everything teachers really need to know that you don't learn in teachers college, that you learn on the fly while you're doing the job with 30 kids in front of you. So it's sort of like building the airplane while you're flying it. And I thought, I want to write that book. All the things that I watch year after year as we get new hires, new teachers coming into the building, occasional teachers, and just all the ways they're not equipped for the role or all the things they didn't know were coming, which are huge pieces of the job. And really, you should come in at least knowing it's coming. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be caught completely off guard. So that was the book concept, like everything they need to know that they didn't learn in teachers college. So I just started making a laundry list of, over the last 10 years of teaching. For me, I was a union steward and very involved with the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. And in those roles, and as part of, our local executive and being a steward, I helped a lot of new teachers and mentored a lot of new teachers and, would try to be the person they could come to with their questions and that sort of thing. So I felt like I really kind of understood their struggles and could think back also to when I first started teaching and just the things I had no clue about, right? So I wanted to write that book. I wanted to write a book about all those things. I wanted it to be an easy read because teachers are busy people, especially at the beginning of your career. And I wanted it just to pack a lot of punch. So not a lot of fluff, not a lot of belaboring points, just kind of here's the straight facts, here are the practical tips. Hopefully you can just take them and run with them, or at least be aware of what's coming and have some things, in your pocket that you can pull out as needed. So that was the mission I set on, to write that book. And I mean, it's been out since March, and our local teacher unions are buying it up for their new teachers. It's selling well at, my little local bookstore here and online. So hopefully it's helping some people.
So Shannon, with the teachers union and that, can you tell us a little bit about that for people that might not know about that?
Yeah, so in Ontario, and it's true in all of Canada, and I know some places in the States, that all teachers are members of a teacher union. So for the public school teachers in Ontario, that would be the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. Catholic teachers, high school teachers, they have their own unions, and it's the same across the provinces. Every teacher belongs to a union. So within that union, obviously works like a union in any other profession, any other trade. The union represents its members, and so there's various ways teachers can become involved, and one of them is to be the union steward at their local school and representing sort of the teachers in-house in the school with administration. They have social events, they have professional development opportunities, there's committees you can be a part of. You can get involved at the provincial level and attend annual meeting or become an executive member. So the union's really there, not just in a crisis for teachers, but there to support teachers, educate teachers, help them with their role, make things easier, answer questions. So in Ontario and in Canada, our teacher unions are a valuable asset and resource for teachers. And that's another part of the message I want to get out there to new teachers is that, don't suffer in silence. There's not only teachers in your building, there's your union who is ready, willing, and able to help you. So all you have to do is reach out and let somebody know what you need, and you should hopefully find the support you're looking for.
Now, the teachers union, is that only for public schools?
No, so the Catholic teachers in Ontario are members of OECTA, so Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association. And then high schools belong to OSSTF, Ontario Secondary School Teachers Association. So no, it does. And then if you're with the French boards across Ontario, then they have their own union as well. So no, everybody's represented somehow, but there's several different unions in each province that represent teachers.
Now, the curriculum for the teaching children, are they all the same in public schools and private schools, or are they different?
So the curriculum in Ontario is put out by the Ontario government, the provincial government, and that's the same for the other provinces. So, well, I would say there's probably a lot of overlapping, but if you were to pull up the curriculum for Ontario and then the curriculum for Alberta or British Columbia, they all have their own version of a curriculum. But good teaching and learning is good teaching and learning. So I'm thinking you're going to see a lot of crossover between them, although they were developed independently.
I asked that question because we talked about this before we went live, right? The United States and Canada, like some of the teaching curriculum is different, right? It's got different terminologies and stuff like that as well. For some of the listeners that are listening out there, they're asking, how does it differentiate? Like, what is the differences between the curriculums?
I'm not sure what the question is. Between which curriculums?
Between the different provinces and states.
Oh, well, like I said, I think between the provinces, there probably a lot of overlap. The format might look different, but the nuts and bolts of what kids are learning in each grade are probably very similar. In terms of the United States, I know that in having students from the US come to Canada and come to our schools sometimes, it would seem that they always seem to be a year ahead of our curriculum. So if they're coming into, grade 7, this was what they did last year in grade 6 kind of thing. So I know that it used to seem that their curriculum was a little bit more aggressive than ours. But that said, all of our curriculum documents have been redone recently. And so I would venture to guess, because I know that as teachers, we were sometimes looking at the documents saying, oh, this used to be in grade 3, it's in grade 2 now, and things got moved around a little bit. So it's probably, I would say, more on par right now. But yeah, in the United States, they do, they obviously have their own curriculum, which is not part of what we do. But I would think that, being our close neighbor, we have very similar expectations for kids in the different grade levels.
Now, do you guys do summer school?
Like year-round school, or just in the summer?
In the summertime, the teachers do summer school?
Like go to a school ourselves?
Yeah.
So teachers in Ontario, and I can't speak for how it works in all the other provinces, but in Ontario, yes, we do additional qualification courses. So it's part of our, pay grid, that you can move up the grid according to your qualifications. And most often it's just teachers wanting to be current and wanting to do better at their job. So they take additional qualifications, even if they've already maxed out sort of their additional qualifications for financial purposes. So those are offered throughout the school year, and they can take them while they're working, but they're also offered in the summer, which is a big time when teachers might take those on to do some extra learning themselves, because they can go at their leisure. There are a few that are still in person, but most of them have gone virtual now after COVID. So makes it nice. You can kind of log in and do your coursework and interact with others, when it's good for you. So everybody doesn't have to be available at the same time, but teachers definitely spend, this is the nuts and bolts of how it is being a teacher. We want you to, we're implementing a new language curriculum in September, and they tell you in June. So now you spend your whole summer learning the curriculum so that you're ready to teach it in September. So think about that. If you were, a doctor who was going to perform a new surgery, and they said, this is how you're going to do it starting next month, and then you got to go teach yourself the whole process before you go ahead and do it, right? Like it's a weird conundrum that people don't understand. It's not like it comes out, we get lots of time to preview it, we get some training on it, we get resources, we have everything we need, we're all set up to go and then we do it. No, it just comes out and we're expected to jump into action. And the learning curve for all of those things are very steep. So this is why so much work has to go home with us, because beyond, the marking and the lesson planning and things that people know teachers do on their own time, they also have to spend a lot of their own time teaching themselves things or taking actual courses to keep current, in addition to all the day-to-day work that goes with the role.
Well, I think it's important to get it out there, right? For anybody that wants to go into the teacher field, that they know that they might have to go to summer school, they might have to take those courses. These are things that they might not know about. I just want to be a teacher. Oh, but you have to do all the extra work as well. Like there's a lot of homework that the teacher has to actually do too, along the way.
Yeah, and I think the two good ways to combat the overwhelming nature of our role is, one, through collaboration, like work with your grade level teams, work with other teachers in your school, try to make less work for everyone by being efficient. And then, oh, sorry, I forgot what you said. I forgot what you said.
That's okay. The tea just slipped.
It's in this coffee. I'm having a coffee, not a tea. But oh, I don't remember what the question was. So now I've lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's okay, right? It happens, right? Even in a classroom, you ask a question and you're like, what did I ask my student?
I'm the kid who just put his hand up, and then when the teacher calls on him, he goes, "Oh, I forget."
Right?
These kids do that all the time. They put their hand up, and then if you don't get to them right away, by the time you're like, "Okay, Susie," they've forgotten what their hand was up for. So yeah, that was me.
Absolutely, right? And we're in class right now. Miss Liz is learning too, right? We're having this conversation, and I'm learning as we're going as well. Shannon, I want to talk about teachers' burnout, because we don't talk about that very often out in today's world. Let's talk about the teachers' burnout, because I know that that's part of in the book and part of courses and stuff that you offer as well.
Yeah, so that's like almost a whole chapter there in the book, about avoiding burnout and strategies for setting boundaries and finding balance and all of that. So that's a big part of my book. But it's interesting because I also offer, to write articles and things for blogs and magazines and that sort of thing. And that's the one that keeps gaining traction. I keep getting requests for that topic. So you know, burnout is a major factor in education right now. And my point is, like, we need to stop telling teachers, like, self-care, take care of yourself, turn your emails off at night, get a massage. Those things are great, right? Like, yes, they're great strategies. But that's not what teachers need. That's not going to combat this burnout problem we're having in education with teachers right now, and teachers leaving the profession. So for me, one of the biggest and the most overlooked reason is the change fatigue. And by that, I mean that, in some roles and some jobs, your days may look very similar from day to day, and you can count on certain things being consistent. And so then you're not having to make on the fly minute to minute adjustments or decisions, or those sorts of things for small things or huge things. But in teaching, it's constantly new things coming at you. There's constant inundation of new curriculum documents, new mandates, new policies, new expectations, the new way things are happening in our school. A new student enters the class and throws off the dynamics. Like, it's change after change after change, which causes you to constantly be on, constantly having to be learning, constantly reading, like just researching. There's so much change that happens in education, and rightly so, because we need to be current. No teacher wants 20-year-old education or curriculum documents. However, we're not recognizing the effect that all this change that constantly happens, the effect that it has on a teacher's workload and on a teacher's mental health. And then while teachers are trying to figure this all out, because we're public servants, you've got the noise of the government, the public, social media, constantly criticizing teachers or, taking aim at them when if you don't, if you don't understand the role and the environment and that we're public servants and what we can and cannot do. Because I will sometimes, we'd have parents say, well, like, why don't the teachers know the answer to this question? And it's like, or why don't they do something? And it's not that we don't know the answer and it's not that we don't know what you need. It's that it's not available or we're not allowed, those sorts of things where people will turn that and say, well, my son's teacher did nothing. Well, your son's teacher can't make a behavior specialist appear. There's a whole process for that with a big long wait list and it's beyond, we think teachers can solve everything, but we're in the education business. We're not in the mental health business. We're not therapists. We're not counselors. We're not, you know, all of the different needs kids have. We can't possibly be the expert for all of those needs. We need a team. But due to government funding, we often don't have the team we need. And so then it falls on the teacher to add band-aids. And it's just not realistic. And I understand that parents want to say the teacher is doing nothing or the school is doing nothing, but their real target needs to be the Ontario government or whichever government, funds the schools, because without funding, we can't have the human resources that our kids need. And that's the real issue.
And Shannon, there's been a lot of cutbacks for teachers in the last few years, correct?
Yes, and I just saw, actually a friend posted it because there's a little calculator must be somewhere online, and somebody's put one out there, and you can calculate for your child's school in Ontario. You can go to that school and see what the funding cuts were per child based on the amount of funds cut from that school particularly. And so she had done it, and per child at her school, her children's school, $1,500 per kid was cut.
Wow, that's a lot. When you add it all up, that's a lot.
It's a lot of money, yeah, per child across Ontario, right? And some people might say, well, $1,500, but when you don't understand all of the things our schools were already lacking before that cut, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like people will say, well, don't buy things for your classroom. Don't spend your own money. Don't, right? Like they'll tell teachers you don't have to. But the reality of what our job would be if we didn't buy the things we needed, trying to educate children every day, and the lack of resources kids would have to learn if we didn't, like, it's not even, no teacher could fathom it, right? They won't allow their kids to go without, to learn without. And so we often spend more money on our children in our classroom, than our own children. Like, no, you can't have that Lego set, but I need Legos for my classroom for the kids to play with because they don't have them at home and I want them to have Legos to build with, whatever it is. So yeah, the funding is the driving force behind, in my opinion, all the issues in education. So anyway, we were talking about the change fatigue, and I think that we really have to find more support, which comes back to funding for teachers to be able to engage in that learning during their school day, or when they're on the clock instead of having to do all of that at home. And we also have to streamline these changes. We can't, if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is asking, then they're getting dumped on with multiple huge changes all at the same time. And everything is, a now, like this is getting implemented now, where we might need, more of a running start, and it might need to be implemented in the next year or the next 5 years, or, depending on what it is. So we really somebody's got to be overseeing all the different demands being placed on teachers and streamlining implementation so that everything's not always happening at once.
So Shannon, we have a question here. How has education changed for teaching since online has taken over?
Yeah. So, I mean, some great things came out of online learning, like a lot of teachers are more tech savvy. We're able to implement that in our classroom more seamlessly than as a whole. I'm saying there was lots of very tech savvy teachers, but more than before, school boards were kind of forced to buy some new technology that teachers have been wanting and needing, and so we have that at our disposal. But the biggest thing is we got different kids back, right? The kids pre-COVID and post-COVID just, and every teacher will tell you there's just something different about the kids as a whole, right? So, and that's kind of two groups. That's like the kids born during COVID. So they were very much isolated. They weren't out at the parks playing with other kids or in little groups, or taking something that was more structured and learning how to sit and listen, and different things like that. So they came to school like a little bit kind of wild and not school ready because they didn't have the experiences that kids get when they're 1, 2, 3 years old before they enter school at 4. So there's that kind of group of kids, and then the kids who were older, um it seems that even though technology was already a big factor, it's really taken hold of them. Like, they seem to, as a whole, it's not every child, it's not every family, but spent so much more time on technology because there wasn't all the other options of things to do, that I would use the word addicted. Like, there are kids who came back and it's like, you can't ask them to put their phone away because they're going to have a panic attack if they can't check it. It's that extreme. And so teachers are in a constant battle, trying to outperform technology and social media apps, and those things that you can't compete with when you're saying, "Hey, we're gonna learn calculus now," and they can watch TikTok videos that make them laugh. Do you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
what we're competing with. So, it's very apparent that kids have spent too much time on technology and on social media. They're completely distracted by it. They can't live without it, and we're constantly in a battle with them about it. And so I think post-COVID, those are our biggest issues that as a whole education system we're battling. And I know in Ontario, they've come out and said, like, "Well, cell phones are banned in schools." Well, most schools already had that, where, like, you can't have your cell phone out during learning time unless the teacher says, "Okay, we're doing math," and they wanna use it as a calculator, or we're researching and they wanna use, look up to do some research. Nothing's changed even though the government said there's a ban. It's still running how we always ran our schools. Maybe they didn't know that, but that is not going to solve the problem, hasn't solved the problem, and it can't just, you know we need parents back in kids' lives, and we need them interacting with them and demanding that some of this technology is put away for, at least some of their day so that we can re-engage them, as human beings instead of, trying to compete here with the technology.
So, Shannon, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the parents' role in helping with the education.
Mhm.
Having a good connection with the teachers, having that open communication and understanding, instead of going on the attack on the teacher, try and understand the situation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest predictor of academic success is parent involvement. So when a parent's involved in a child's education, they will 100% do better than they would if they didn't, right? So, when parents know what's going on in the child's classroom, knows what they're learning about, knows their schedule, tries to, attend school events when they can, goes to parent-teacher interviews, like all those sorts of things, kids do better. Hands down, every child will do better. So we really need parents to come to the table and be partners in their child's education, and show up for their kids with school. We also need them to be supportive and having open dialogue with us. Like, teachers don't willy-nilly say, "That's it, I'm calling this parent and telling them how rotten their kid is." Do you know what I mean? Like, if a teacher is having a real struggle with your child, they're gonna try every which way to solve that before they get to the point of calling you and engaging you for some help. So if they've gotten to the point of calling you, know that they've already exhausted every option they felt they had available to them at school. And now they're calling for your help, your support, to work through it with you. Where a lot of times, it used to be if the school called and you're in trouble at school, you're in more trouble at home, right? And I don't know if that's necessarily the right answer, but there has to be a balance. And what we find now is when we have to make those, difficult calls home, we often get the blame. Well, my kid said you did this, and my kid said you did that, and Susie wouldn't do this, and Joey wouldn't do that, and it was the other kid's fault. And, just a lot of excuses, a lot of deflecting. Um, and hey, maybe sometimes some of that's true. We're not perfect human beings, but we're making that call to have a conversation and open a dialogue and to re-engage you to hopefully solve something that's going to make school better for your child and improve their situation and hopefully their academic performance. So being a parent who's willing to listen and consider and think about things and meet you halfway, without that reaction that kind of then gets it off on the wrong foot, is important. And if you're not, hearing from your child's teacher, you're not involved, it's a two-way street. You can you can pick up the phone and call, you can send an email or use your school platform, you can ask how things are going at any point. It's not that teachers are just wanting to leave you in the dark, they're just being pulled in so many different directions, and they have, calls and things that must be made. So sometimes, if Susie's doing well and everything's really good, they might not call you for a bit or reach out at all, but you're always welcome to call. You're welcome to schedule a meeting. Like, you can initiate that interaction with teachers as well. And I mean, there's nothing teachers love more than a partner, a supportive parent who shows up and says, like, how's my child doing? How can I help? Is there anything I could do at home? Like, you know what I mean? That is like heaven to us because then we feel like we're not in it alone having to, keep all of these kids afloat and getting the best from them every day, that we have other support.
Now, how do you feel about parents volunteering their time to help teachers out?
That's great. I think in most cases, teachers welcome volunteers in their classroom. There's many different ways that you can help out, and that looks different in different schools and at different grade levels and with different teachers, but there's always an avenue for parents to be involved, whether it's at the school level, whether it's in the classroom or a field trip. But I think, again, you want to be there to be involved with your child, but you have to remember that this is a class of however many students. And so that may look a little different than you were thinking. And so, try to work with the teacher and find that common ground about why you want to be in the classroom and what is really actually a valuable and useful and helpful to them. And then see if you can find that role and that frequency with which to do that that works for you both.
So, Shannon, during parent time, like parent meet and greet and all of that, is there one story that stands out to you over the 25 years?
You know what? One story, I don't think so, but I'm going to say, um, my first year teaching, was actually in Oakville. And I was out of school, and my first round of parent-teacher interviews, every single student's parents came, and I'd say probably at least 80-90% was both parents, and then a couple there was even a nanny, and I was
Oh,
just like, wow! Like, I was blown away. I just could not believe the attendance at parent-teacher interviews, which was a great thing. Some teachers might be like, "Oh my goodness, every parent came," like, but for me, it was like I got to meet every parent. I got to put faces with names. I knew who I was talking to. They got to see me. Like, I thought it was such a great thing. And I mean, now at the end of my career, after 25 years, and now a totally different school and, different climate and that and whatnot, um, you might get 3 or 4, right? And so, I mean, even just that, and now it's been over a 25-year period, but it's been a big decline, in attendance at parent-teacher interviews, and, that's sad. And if you can't make the interview days and times, teachers are happy to schedule it when you can. So, if you're like, "Oh, it's Thursday and I can't go on Thursdays, I have to work," send a note or call, because they'll meet you Wednesday or they'll meet you Friday, or, they'll call you instead of in person. But just be involved. Just be involved in whatever way you can make work with your family and your lifestyle and the number of kids you have. It's important. Kids do better when their parents are involved.
Why do you feel that there's a decline in parents attending these parent meetings?
I'd say it's a lot of things. Some of them, two parents are working. So most households have two parents, or every adult's working. It's not parents that maybe have that time. We now are like, we're a 24/7 society, so it's not like every parent works in the daytime and has the evening free. A lot of parents work evenings, midnights, weekends, so the rat race goes 24/7. A lot more, I'd say, single parent families, where that's a lot harder for them to get in, and even they might have multiple kids, so trying to get with each teacher, especially in high school when, your kid might have 4 different teachers and you got 3 kids and you're trying to do 12 meetings, like that's, a little bit of craziness. Um, and I think just there's not as much, it's kind of like the school will teach my children, not as much, parents feeling like they're also responsible for their child's education and wanting to play a role in that. So leaving it to the professionals, the school system. Um, yeah, those are some of my thoughts on why.
So I found that you have 5 strategies that you can do at home with your child. What are those 5 strategies that parents can do with their kids at home?
Sorry, I don't know which 5 strategies you're talking about. Where did you see
Oh,
that?
I found that on your website.
Oh, you read one of my blog posts. Okay. Oh, I'm not familiar with them. Okay. I'm going to make them up, and they'll probably be the same ones as I might have put on my blog post. But things parents can do, at home is make sure their kids are prepared for school, right? They have everything they need. Um, they come to school prepared, they've had some breakfast, they've got a lunch with them, they've got all their school supplies, homework, that sorts of thing. If a child starts a day off and they get to school and they're like, oh, I forgot my lunch, or my math's at home on the kitchen table, or whatever. It just sets the wrong tone for their day, and then they're trying to recover. So trying to have a, either positive or neutral morning where there's not too much drama, where it's a fairly smooth send off and they have everything they need, sets kids up for success 100%. And if not, because that's not always the reality, if they've had a rough morning, or they're, sad about something, or emotional, or whatever, giving the teacher a heads up so they know the child they're receiving that day. And if you're able to, giving them a little heads up as to why. So they kind of know the scenario and maybe know how to navigate that with your child a little bit better, so they can bring their day back around. The other thing is, having a space, whatever that looks like in your home, for them for homework, where it has, again, all the materials and things that they're going to need to be successful. So whether it's the kitchen table, a little desk, whatever that space is, but just somewhere where they can sit comfortably, do their homework, without distractions, without technology, without a TV on in the background, that sort of thing. And be nearby, be accessible if they get stuck, so that you're able to, give them a little support and allow them to move forward, because they're not used to doing it all by themselves. They're used to having a teacher right there that they can ask questions to. So some kids really need that adult to help them read the instructions, or, help them with a tough question in order to keep going and avoid the meltdowns or the blow ups or the crying, or, any level of frustration your child might display. Um, and then, as the research for a lot of years has said, read with your kids, just read. Have fun reading books. Model reading yourself. Read your favorite book in front of them so they see you as a reader. Read books before bed, read books in the car. Just kind of have little stashes of books all around. So they're always available, trying to set that example that, reading is important. It's a big thing. It's how you learn, it's how you think. And then ask them questions and have, conversations about what they've read, and, not on the level of like, well, what color was Susie's dress? But like, what did you think about that? Or what would the ending be if you wrote the book? Or, just trying to come up with things that also get them thinking, and becoming critical thinkers about what they read, because they're going to consume a lot of information in their lifetime, and we don't want them to take everything they read as the gospel truth. We want them to be able to think critically about what they read and then decide for themselves. So reading is another huge one. So I'd say, those are the top three. There's lots of ways, even finding opportunities for your family. You're in the car, play little math games. You're out on a nature walk, name the animals, name the leaves, name the flowers, just anything that gives them general knowledge. Having conversations that helps build their general knowledge, because what we know is when kids do standardized tests, their score on general knowledge is a big predictor of, academic success as well, because the more general knowledge you have, the better reader you are, the more things you know that are making sense, the more you can add to what you already know. General knowledge goes a long way. So just having daily conversations whenever you're talking to your kids about things will also help them in school.
So we have a question here for you, Shannon. When's the best time to do homework?
So that's such a individual child question, okay? So if you got to really look at your kids, and I mean, you might have 3 kids, and it's the right time at 3 different times for each of them. So you're going to have, is your child the kid that wants to just come home, get that homework done, and know it's over, and then they can go about their day? If that's them and they're driven to just get that done, then you want to have that set up ready to go after school. Here's a little snack, sit down, do your homework, and you're done. If you have a kid who maybe finds school a lot, and by the end of the day, they're just done, they're drained, they're exhausted, they're tired, like that was a lot of mental energy all day long to pay attention at school, they are not the kid you want to say, okay, get up here and do your homework before you go play. They're the kid that needs to go run around and get out some energy and have some free time, some downtime to just either play, lay on their bed, like whatever it is they need to do to kind of recover from school before you want to ask them, okay, now it's time to do your homework. So maybe for them, it might be right after dinner. So you got to look at your kids, and you got to know when's the right time for them. And I would suggest always having something that's a habit, that's a trigger for them, that they know next homework is coming. So whether it's like I get home from school, I have this snack and then I do homework, or I eat dinner, then I do homework, or I have a shower, then I do homework, so that they get into the habit. It becomes part of their day, like brushing their teeth, and it's in the same spot, the same schedule every day. However that looks for your child. And obviously, sports and other activities are a big factor in kids' lives these days. So you really got to look at each child and consider their personality, but also consider what else they have going on. And my biggest takeaway would be to make it consistent, same time every day, the best you can.
I like that, because not every child learns the same way, right? And we have to know our children as well. It's not just a teacher that needs to know our child. We also need to know our child.
Yeah, and it's, I get parents who are like, I have 3 kids, I just want all their homework done right after school. I get that from a parent's lens, because I'm a parent too, and I would love that. But the reality is, that might work for 2 of them, but the one might be the one that needs the break, and then that child's going to be the one that's crying and having meltdowns and hating school and not wanting to go back, and that's going to stay with them forever. Right?
Yeah.
They're gonna get this bad taste about school and think school's not for me. I'm dumb. My siblings can do their homework no problem, but I cry and have this big struggle with it, and they're gonna internalize that. And the biggest thing we wanna do with kids with learning is maintain self-esteem. So teachers work hard all day to maintain your child's self-esteem as a learner, and you want to continue to maintain that self-esteem at home. No math worksheet or book that needs to be read is worth your child's self-esteem. So you gotta meet them where they're at, and you have to do it at the optimal time for them.
So Shannon, in your book, is there something that you'd like to share with the listeners out there? What is one thing that you learned when you wrote this book that you wish you would have known when you first started teaching?
Oh, there's so many. I think what I would my biggest takeaway at this point would be that all behavior is communication. So we see every day in classrooms across Canada and the United States, kids having, I'm going to call them all behavior issues. That's a big, huge catchphrase for a lot of different things. And when you see that, that is a child who's not having a need met. And so our job as teachers is to figure out what need is not being met and how can we meet that need, right? And sometimes it's simple. Sometimes you're asking a child to sit in a four-legged chair and, they came with a brain that needs constant movement. Like their body is seeking movement and sitting still in a chair is going against the grain for them. And you give them a wobble stool or you give them an exercise ball or you allow them to stand. And all of a sudden, there's no behaviors because the need of movement was satisfied. And sometimes it can be that simple. And then sometimes it can't, right? And the needs are more complicated, or there's several needs going on at the same time, or the needs get to be the level of, childhood trauma. Well, then the need is they need the right experts to help them get to a place where they're school ready. And teachers aren't those people. Teachers are not trauma experts, just for example. So that's where we need the funding to have the people available in schools to help our children who have those, higher level, more significant needs that are not being met so they can be school ready. And I mean, if as adults, if our needs weren't being met, we wouldn't be school ready either. So learning as a teacher that all behavior is communication and there's a need not being met. And even the teenager who's cracking jokes and being belligerent and yelling out, there's a need not being met. Whether that's they have a need for human connection and they're trying to get a connection with you because they don't have anyone they can connect with, or whether it's the material's too difficult for them. And so they're masking that by being the class clown and being silly so nobody notices they can't do the math. So every time you see student behavior as a teacher, I recommend saying, what is this child trying to communicate? Because there's something there. It may take you a while to figure it out, but once you do, the behavior, will stop. But again, that's with the caveat that some behaviors are, easier to navigate than others. There's some that are way beyond the scope of a teacher, and that's where we need the other professionals.
When you said that class clown, I was just like, that's what I used to do when we used to have geography. And the maps would really frustrate me. And that's why I put the maps on the flyers when I make them, because as a child, it really stuck with me, right? Why it frustrated me, why I always played around, tried to avoid them and stuff like that. And it was the moving around as a child. I moved around from foster care and grandparents and stuff like that. So the maps were like a trigger for me. I had to move. I had to go to a different location. And one of my teachers, I believe it was Madame Fournier, my French teacher, who noticed that. And she was like, it's not the flags that are triggering her. It's the movement of the location, going to a new home and stuff like that, new country and stuff like that. So just realizing those little things, right? And saying, oh, well, what is it really? It's not the flags. It's something else that's triggering her right now. And what I would do is I would just make a joke. I would just be that class clown that would disrupt the whole class. So then we would take away from that time of coloring flags or talking about the flags or anything like that. I would be that class clown. So,
right, exactly. And sometimes it's as simple as well as asking the child, like, why? Why are you doing this? Why, what do you need? And a lot of times kids know what they need. And what they need is the adult in the room to give it to them, to allow whatever it is they need to happen. And then there's sometimes where kids have no idea. And that's where you got to, do a little more investigating and figuring it out on your own. But in my experience, a lot of times kids know exactly what they need. They know why they need it. And we need to empower our kids to, stop looking at everything as a disability or a special need, or yes, there's a place for those labels, but they're just human needs. We all have needs that we need. Some of what we need fits nicely into schools. Like if you're an oldest girl in a family, you probably play school really well because school's set up for girls who are, quieter and responsible and like to do schoolwork and, that sort of thing. If you're, the sixth boy in a family of six boys, you probably have never sat still in your life. Your house is probably wild and crazy and, some wrestling going on and whatever. So recognizing that kids come from different environments at home and have different lived experiences, and then we sit them in a class and say, "Now we're all gonna do this way."
Yeah.
That's really hard. That's not even, realistic, and we
So
have to accommodate for
Shannon,
that.
I want to take you on to a little classroom here. I want you to tell me why you gave me the three words: teach, empower, and affirm. As a teacher, I'm really curious on when you gave me those three words.
And you know what's so funny when I was asked for like 3 words to go with those letters, like that just immediately came to me. And I would say it's both from a lens as for teachers, but and for students as well. Like we need to teach students, and by teach I mean provide those learning opportunities, not necessarily stand at the front of the class and, give them all our knowledge, but provide learning opportunities for both students and new teachers. Um, and then once they're learning, we need to empower them with their new knowledge and skills and say, "Yeah, that's it. Go do it. You've got this." And really encourage them and empower them to take the next step. And then when they are doing it and whether or not they're meeting with, 100% success out of the gate, affirming that you're on the right track, you're doing it. Look at you. You've got this. Um, it really takes teachers to believe in students before they believe in themselves sometimes. And so that's kind of the process as I see it, learning opportunity or teach them, empower them to give it a try on their own and take responsibility for their own learning and then affirm that they've got it.
I love it. And I love that in those three words, because as a teacher, I was just like, she's going to give me the word teach. I know that one's coming. But the word empower and affirm, affirming children and encouraging children in today's world. We don't get that a lot, and I think that's where the parents need to step up and say, you know what, you're doing awesome. Like, oh my goodness, you did 5 colors instead of 8 colors. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, just be there and encourage people to keep pushing forward. What
Yeah,
final
I mean,
message?
even sorry with parents, like, simple as you're teaching your child to tie their shoe, you're going to teach them to tie the shoe. Then you're going to empower them like, "You can do it." You're gonna cheer them on, and you're gonna help them if they're not quite getting it right, and then you're gonna affirm and say, "You did it. Look at you. You know how to tie your shoes." So, I mean, if you just think of that, but you apply it to a lot bigger concepts and a lot, bigger learning, you get the idea.
And what final message do you have for all the new teachers out there that they might not know about teaching?
I don't know if it's about what they might not know, but just know that it gets better. Know that you've got this. If you've always dreamed of being a teacher and you're finally living out your dream and you're in the role, it's not going to be easy. It's challenging. My best advice to you is to collaborate, to find other teacher friends, whether they're in your building or outside your building. Um, Build yourself a little network because other teachers are the only people who really understand your lived experience in your day to day. And they're great partners for celebrating your wins. And they're also there, for your struggles and challenges with some great advice. And they've probably been through it themselves before. So I think new teachers, my number one piece of advice would be to build yourself a little network of teacher friends because they'll be with you the whole way. And it really makes teaching so much better when you're in the trenches with others who are friends.
And if anybody would like to reach out to you to have them on their podcast or interview, or just reach out to you as a teacher, how can they do that?
So you can head to my website, which is teacherEDU.ca, and I have a contact form there. Otherwise, you can email me at Shannon@teacherEDU.ca, or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Okay, that was awesome. And thank you so much for coming and sharing all this incredible information about teachers and being a teacher and how to get your homework done and all of those good points, because all the parents out there, there's a lot of good tools and tips out there. If this tea does resonate with anybody out there, please share it with a coworker, a friend, a family member, a child. This is what these tea times are for, is just to get the information out there and to show that we all have stories, we all have lives, and we all make a difference when we share our true selves. So again, check out Shannon's book. Her book is out. It's been out since March. Check that out. Check out her website as well at www.teacherEDU.ca. I believe it's
teacherEDU.ca.
Awesome. And I will be back tomorrow afternoon for a second tea time. And then I'll be back on Thursday with one tea time on Thursday. And then we're going to wrap it up on the 28th and 29th with two more tea times. So if you want to check out all those tea times, run over to Miss Liz's website, www.misslizsteatime.com. If you'd like to know what topics are coming for November, stay tuned because press release will be out on the 24th and you'll get to see the lineup there. I'm doing my best to bring in different topics, different countries, and good, strong cup of teas for you to all enjoy. And thank you to all the listeners who tuned in. Thank you for all the viewers on Instagram. I do see you guys. I appreciate all of your support. I could not do this without all of you guys. So until then, I will see everybody tomorrow, 3 p.m., and we'll do this all over again. And we'll serve another cup of tea with you through stories and words. Thank you all for joining me today.